Hey everyone, welcome to day 6 of Mastering Your Money. We are getting on for time, like we've only got today and tomorrow left. Sorry for bumping it up. Hopefully you guys saw my post from earlier. Right now you would never know that this weekend we are going to be in and out of tornado storm cells apparently, and so it was like doom and gloom here just a little while ago. And because the weather is just so all over the place, I thought that it would be safer bet to not wait until this evening to go live, because I was going to go live at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time tonight as well as tomorrow, but we will still go ahead. As far as I know, stay tuned for 8 p.m. tomorrow. If not, then I will move it up for that reason. So I'm just out under my little umbrella. It's still kind of sprinkling a little bit, but we're going to get started. Today, guys, we're talking about insuring your investments and why that's important, the types I recommend and why. And so as you're tuning in, say hi. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. Let me know if you're catching me on my profile or if you are joining us in the mini-series event page. Whichever means you are joining us from, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us and joining me here and inviting me through video into your home and your lives. But guys, this week or today we're going to be talking, like I said, about insuring your investments. Now, why is this important? Okay, so you've already done your savings, you've begun budgeting. Hey Candace, and now you're going to be, and you've already talked about doing the investments. Now, why is it important to insure those investments? The reason for that is because it adds a layer of security for both you and for other people, depending on the type of insurance that you're getting. And we'll get into that in just a moment. It protects the things that you've already invested in. So, hey Virginia, by insuring the investments, it protects them, gives you that added level of security, as well as it provides you with, protects your assets in the event that your investment's not enough to cover it. So for instance, I won't go into detail just a moment because I'm going to go into more detail in just a few minutes, but think of it like your auto insurance. You've purchased your car, which is your asset, then you have insurance on top of your car. Why? There's different reasons for that. One, of course, being that it protects it if something happens to it, and also, of course, it protects other people in the event that you had an unlikely accident or something like that. So now that's kind of explaining why it's important to insure your investments. Yeah, good afternoon. It was going to be good evening, but like I said, we are kind of in a really weird storm mode today right now. The sun is shining, so I'm popping on in taking that moment of clearness in the event that we do end up getting this tornado storm cell that keeps coming and going today. So the first recommended type of insurance, guys, I wanted to give you guys is the property insurance. Now, of course, if you have a mortgage, this is usually a requirement of your mortgage, so it's not always optional. However, if you've been fortunate enough to be able to either inherit a home and you don't have any payments on it, or you've purchased it through cash or whatever, there's different means that you can obtain, of course, homes without, or maybe you've won one. Congratulations, because that happens quite often out here in Alberta, especially with the home lottery. But whatever the means is, it's very important to insure that home. Hey Lily, it's one of your biggest assets. So, thanks. Thank you so much for sharing, Virginia. I appreciate you so much. I love sharing your content too, because you're amazing. Your home is one of your biggest assets, so it's very, very important that you protect that against anything possible that could possibly happen. Like I said, it's usually a mortgage requirement. Why is it important? It can cover different things. If you had a flood within your home, like if a pipe burst or something like that, you can have your contents within the home. You can buy different types and levels of insurance for your home, so it could cover your contents. It could be that there's other types of insurance for your home that you can include, where if it was kind of like there's a name for it and it's escaping me at the moment, but something like a nature type thing, like for instance, if the tornado decides to jump down and like wipe out our home, which would be terrible, but you know what I mean, like something that's unforeseen, that's kind of come from nature, it can cover that as well. An act of God, thank you. I don't know why I wouldn't know that, but anyway, just wasn't coming to me today. But yeah, it can cover all sorts of things. Even home insurance can, even if you purchase a different type of level, if for some reason someone comes to your home, for instance, we are self-employed, and so sometimes we have clients coming to pick up their furniture and things like that. So if they happen to slip and fall on our front step or tripped on the stairs, you know, it can cover that as well if we have have that as an added portion to our home insurance, or in this case we rent, and so it's actually another option for us as well. So even if you're renting, I wanted to stress that it's important to have insurance. Even if you aren't self-employed, it's still important to do that. The reason why is because if you're renting, the homeowner does I guess mine's her, their home insurance does not cover your belongings. So even though it may seem, you may think that it does, unfortunately it doesn't. I've been renting since I was 18, and unfortunately I fell victim to that. Hey Eileen. Eileen, I never pronounced your name correctly, forgive me. But it's really important to insure your belongings, even if you're just renting, because in my case, for instance, I had a computer and it got wet because of a pipe bursting, and I lost everything on that computer. I was a photographer at the time, and all my family photographs from growing up with my child and stuff like that, that was all on there, guys. And even though I wouldn't have got that back even if I had had insurance, the cost of being a single mom at the time and losing my computer source was devastating at the time. So and it could be that you lost all your belongings to a fire in the apartment building or your home or whatever the case is. So it's really important to have, whether it's mortgage or renter's insurance, to cover you, cover your belongings, cover your family, and all of the contents within it. Make sure that you touch base with whoever, shop around for your insurance as well, because there is so many different options that are out there, different types of price points, different plans and things like that. For instance, some of the insurance companies in southern Alberta do not cover acts of God, especially tornadoes and hail damage specifically, because it is really prone to that area. So some insurance companies are really kind of picky. If they know that an act of God is more common in the area that you live in, there's oftentimes they will not cover that. So just shop around, see what's available to you in your area, specifically for your city, and really just kind of weigh the pros and cons as to what it is that you're trying to cover. And again, like I said, if you're self-employed, it's really important to add that extra level of security if you have any clients coming to or from your home, just to ensure that your back and your business and your home, of course, is covered. Now, the next level of insurance, guys, for your investments that I want to recommend is, of course, life insurance. This is an optional one. It's very rare that I don't think of any instance where it's required. But whereas like auto and mortgage, for instance, but with life insurance, it's really important to, it's not just to cover you, but it's most definitely to cover your family. This is really important if you have children or if you have a spouse. There can be so many unexpected expenses that come in the untimely event of your death, which unfortunately is going to come for us all at one point or another. And so with that extra coverage, it could be that maybe even if you are both working, for instance, if you and your husband are both working, or you and your wife are both working, or if you are a single parent and your child's working, it can still be a devastating blow to all of a sudden go from multiple incomes to one. So that's another reason why life insurance is really important in instances like that, to help protect your family, your household, from losing that extra income. As well, of course, there are so many expenses that come with when we pass away, from all the expenses, from depending on how it happens. Like if it's an emergency, there's so many emergency costs, ambulance and fire crews. It can be so many different things, and I know it's different in different areas, but for us, in Alberta, Nova Scotia, and across Canada probably, and most likely across North America as well, that there's so many unexpected costs that can happen that you don't necessarily think of, and unfortunately it just kind of creeps up on you at the time of passing away. Now, the other thing with life insurance is, just look at my notes because I get going on tangents sometimes, is, for instance, if you have, it protects your other things like your assets like real estate, your businesses, anything like that you would be subject to a death tax. It seems so silly when you think about it. It does to me anyway, that they tax you in the time of your death, but it is just what happens. And it's, as far as I know it's Canada and the US, and I believe that it's worldwide that happens, but I could be wrong. I can't speak beyond North America too much, because I'm not an expert in those areas, for instance, but for sure it does help cover those things. And these are extra things that you want to be asking the insurance broker as well, to ensure that the type of life insurance that you're getting will cover those types of things, especially if you are self-employed or if you own businesses, and you own your real estate, different types of real estate, things like that. You want to make sure that it's covering your death tax. And of course, the other option to think about with life insurance is it equalizes your estate. Now, what does equalizing your estate means? It means that if you had a life insurance payout that was worth, say, 800 grand, and then maybe you have a property that's worth 500 grand, and maybe you have two heirs that you're going to be leaving money to. The life insurance you could take out for 300,000, which would offset the $500,000 asset for your home. So the 300,000 life insurance could be on top of that, whereas the normal payout would be the 800,000, if you know what I mean. So it kind of balances, it equalizes it out for your asset, or for your heirs. And that's just something to think about. Not everybody, you know, is concerned about that. Sometimes they just try to, you know, balance it out as best as possible based on what they already have in their investments and their insurance policies. But just something to think about. Sometimes we don't think of those kinds of things. Of course, I didn't want to go into too much detail with that, but there's also an option for insurance. Hopefully you guys can hear me because the wind's picking up a little bit. With the life insurance as well, something to think about is you could be choosing to leave money with a charity. There's different options to do that, which I'm not going to go into too much because it's not really my area of expertise. But it's kind of like you have them take out a life insurance in your name, and then you pay so much for a premium to the charity. And then if something happens to you, it's kind of like they're taking out an investment against your death, which is kind of weird, but it does happen, especially if it's something that's near and dear to your heart, a charity that you want to support. So that's an option to you as well if you want to look into that, if you weren't aware of that already. Next, guys, I wanted to talk about is health insurance. Health insurance, again, is one of those optional things. A lot of people overlook them, especially if they're self-employed, because of the fact that premiums can tend to be higher if you're self-employed. But even if you are, I highly recommend getting health insurance. It's not just to cover you, but again, it's one of those ones that cover your family as well, for so many different aspects. If you are, whether you're employed or self-employed, as long as you're tracking your income, and of course, and paying taxes, which I hope that you are, it will allow your family or yourself, even if you, because this is not for death, this is if you are getting sick or injured and you're missing time from work. It can cover medical bills. It can cover your expense, like what you would normally top up, like it will top up your income in the event that you are injured or sick and you're missing time from work. So even if you're self-employed, as long as there's a proof of the type of income that you were getting on a regular basis, then they're still able to cover that. Again, these are one of these conversations that you want to have with your insurance broker, just to make sure that the type of insurance that you're ordering will cover these types of things. It's just really important. A couple of years ago, when my dad passed away, we were on our way there, and thankfully we're there, before he passed away, but on our way there, we hit a deer, totally totaled our truck. Thankfully we weren't injured physically, it didn't seem. However, like I got really bad whiplash. I ended up missing time from work for my accounting. I was a full-time accountant at the time, and they were able to top up those types of things. They also covered things like long-term physio for my neck, and chiropractic care, any of those things. So these are the reasons why health insurance can be really important. Of course, this also ties into auto insurance, which I'll get to in just a moment. But the other thing with health insurance is if you are not self-employed but employed, oftentimes your employer will also cover the entire benefit. We've had that instance in many times over our career, and in other times when they're not willing to, or not able to pay for the full deductible, the monthly premium rather, the other option is sometimes they'll discount it. So that's why it's more feasible sometimes if you are working outside of the home for someone else to have health insurance. But even if you are self-employed, the rain's starting again. I'm just going to move my chair, guys, just 1 second. Make sure I'm under here enough. I said it's going to be back and forth. I'd be curious to see if it goes really dark again while I'm on the video, but so anyway, yeah, so if you are employed out, I think I just saw a flash. I don't know if you guys saw that. Hey, Suzanne. So anyway, hopefully no tornadoes happen while I'm out here. If they do, I'm running for it, just so you know. You're on your own at that point. But no, with health insurance, guys, oftentimes Thanks. Oftentimes, the employer will cover those premiums for you, which is really awesome. Sometimes they'll actually give you extra options to take out life insurance as well. So that's also something to look into with your employer. See what's available for you within your area, and just have those conversations. I encourage you to just find out what's available to you first, like I said, through your employer, but also through your insurance broker, based on, you know, long-term goals, what types of things you want to ensure that are covered. Hey, Eva. The next form of investment or insurance, sorry, that I would recommend for your investment, which in most cases it is mandatory. It is here in Canada. I read that it's also now mandatory in the US as well. That's okay. You can catch the replay after. Is auto insurance. So as far as I know, all across North America, that is mandatory, regardless of how you're purchasing your car or vehicle, or even if you've purchased cash like we have for our vehicle. Regardless of how you've obtained it, it's mandatory in North America to have auto insurance. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, why is it mandatory? Well, a few different reasons. One, of course, is if you are in an accident, here in Canada, for instance, the base minimum that you have to have is I never remember the initials, but what it basically breaks down to is that it's ensuring that it covers the cost of the other person's damages, so for their vehicle, for any type of medical bills or emergency care, and as well as if you happen to damage property during an accident, then it covers that as well. So that's the minimum. Now, they don't force you in Canada, and you can let me know in the comments, guys, if it's in the States, but in Canada, they don't force you to have the extra level of insurance to cover the cost of the damages to your own vehicle or for your own medical bills or emergencies, things like that. But that's an added thing that I recommend to have. And again, going back to that accident that we had a couple of years ago with that deer, if we didn't pay for that extra level of insurance, we wouldn't have had the pair to come with the health insurance and the auto insurance. And what happened was it covered so many extra things. It allowed us to have a rental vehicle for my goodness, I think we had it for like a month, honestly. They were amazing. Like, our insurance company was amazing. That's why it's so important to shop around. They knew that I was there because my dad was, you know, so ill that he was not going to make it. So they extended that policy for us while we were looking at, they covered our hotel. They covered for a big portion of our gas because we were outside of our province to be able to drive the rental vehicle all the way back home. They helped cover our flights because of the fact we were stranded in the province that we were at, to be able to get to where we were going, and then, you know, be able to get the rental vehicle to be able to get back home. So there's just so many different, sorry, there's mosquitoes everywhere now from the rain. There's so many different options out there, guys, that you want to just shop around and just see, just make sure you have coverage. You know, I know it's one of those things like travel insurance, you know, it's one of those debatable things. Some people think, okay, yes, you really should have it, never travel without it. And of course, I do recommend that, but I just, again, recommend that you shop around. That's not one of the ones I'm going to be talking about today, but it definitely is something you want to look into if you're a big traveler as well. But with the auto insurance, I just wanted to make sure I covered everything. Look at my notes here for a quick second, guys. Yeah, again, with the auto insurance, if I didn't mention it already, of course, like I said, it covers if you were injured. You can get the extra level of coverage to ensure that it tops up your income as well if you are injured to the point where you can't return to work long-term or short-term. And so those are really important aspects to consider, especially if you are you know, the primary bread earner or self-employed and your business kind of relies on you. So there's so many different extras, and again, it just comes down to your preferences, what your life choices are, and what you foresee for needing for your family and your future. But some of these extra things, sometimes I've talked to people and they don't realize that those additional things can be added on to their insurance policy. And sometimes, guys, it's been I think as cheap as like $8 a month or $7 a month for some of these extras that we've added. And I know that they do add up, you know, but long term, you just need to consider, is it worth it for you if something, you know, God forbid, happened to you, to have that extra level of security, knowing that you are covered in so many different aspects. So it's just a preference, personal choice when it comes to those extras. But of course, like I said, auto insurance, and I'm just going to go back in the things here because I know you mentioned Virginia. So basic liability in New Hampshire, okay. A lot of travel insurance is covered by credit cards too. Yeah, I did actually read that last night. We're not credit card owners, so I don't go into it too deeply. We personally, it's just a personal choice for us. But thank you so much for sharing that, Virginia, because that's something I didn't realize. So again, guys, so Virginia's saying that when you have credit cards, a lot of credit cards are actually include the travel insurance, which is really awesome. So that's something to consider as well, because we were talking about credit cards yesterday. So maybe when you're making those conversations with your financial broker or financial planner, make sure that you're talking about and requesting that. If you are an avid traveler, then that's something that could definitely benefit you. And you know, like, we often travel from coast to coast because now we're on the West Coast and we grew up on the East Coast, so all of our family and friends from our lifetime growing up are all back east. So we've traveled, oh my goodness, I don't want to date it too much, but I think 8 times in total, like 8, well, it would have been like 4 round trips. And we drive. It's very, very rare that we fly. We usually drive. So, you know, those extra levels of security for the auto and the travel insurance and things like that, or health insurance, like all of those things can be extra beneficial, especially if you are doing those types of things. But again, if you're self-employed, there are extra levels of security for that as well. Again, with business insurance, which I didn't put down on my list to talk about today because it, again, can vary so much by province and state. But within business insurance, again, it's crucial to have that business insurance, even if you're self-employed, because of the fact that there's just so many things, guys, that can happen. Like, for instance, when we are doing custom closets, if we happen to bring some of the product into a client's house and happen to, you know, ding their wall or, God forbid, like smashed out a window or something like that, bringing the product in, then it will cover both us as well as the damages, so that our business doesn't get sued and everything's covered. So just a lot of things to think about. Those are the reasons why insuring your investments are so important, because your business is an investment, right? It's one of your assets, so it's really important to cover all of those things, the things that you value most. So your health and your life and your auto and your home and your family and all of those things. Just think of yourself and think of others when you're making these considerations, and, you know, just protect yourself. So I wanted to share that with you. Let me know in the comments if this has been helpful. Let me know what your biggest takeaway was. I really hope that you're enjoying the mini series. Tomorrow we're going to be wrapping it up with kind of managing your money overall, and then I'll be making an announcement for a couple of extra things that you guys can tap into at your leisure. So take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining me this week. I hope that it's been helpful. If there's other people that you think could benefit, of course, the replay is going to be available through the event page, so please feel free to invite or add people to that event page. And if you feel the, you know, extra love, then you can, by all means, of course, share the videos as well. And thank you, Virginia, for doing that, and a few others. Simone, I think you've done that, as well as Anne and Sarah. So thank you so much, guys, and I hope you're having an amazing weekend. I'm going to tune off, recharge some of my devices here, because I'm sure the storm cell is going to be still circling. If you didn't see it, we have the storm chasers came up from the US to be in my hometown here because of the fact of the possible tornadoes that are in the area. So we're going to keep an eye on things, say a couple prayers for us, but so far so good, and I'm just going to stay safe. So everybody that's watching, stay safe. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.